Hi everyone, welcome to Couchbase Coding with Matthew Groves. This is a 10-minute slice of my day as a developer advocate, live on both Twitch and YouTube. I'm getting my own audio fed back here, so I need to mute myself somewhere. Sorry about that. Anyway, live every day. Check out old episodes on YouTube. Links up there for the playlist. Email me, tweet me comments and questions, suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. Continuing my series on a sneak preview of the upcoming Couchbase Connect conference in New York, May 9th and 10th. It'll be jam-packed full of Couchbase stuff from our engineers, but also our customers and partners. And just a reminder, no stream this Friday. I'll be at the Star Trek conference in Columbus, Ohio. Stay tuned till the end for a nice, valuable coupon code. All right, so today there's a session going to be at the Couchbase Connect. I believe it's going to be put on by Keshav Murthy, who is one of the main leaders of Nickel here at Couchbase, and he'll be talking about Nickel and global secondary indexes, some of the language and performance improvements we've seen in Couchbase 5 and 5.5. So he is the guy you want to talk to when it comes to Nickel, and he's going to be there doing a presentation, and he'll be at the conference just around. He and his team have worked on a book. I'm sure he'll be passing out some copies there as well. There's some in the back here that I could show you if I were prepared, but I was not. But I am prepared to show you some interesting stuff with Nickel in Couchbase 5.5. So over here on the screen, I've got the regular travel sample bucket that I always like to use. You know what? I didn't open up my Restream chat thing. Let me go ahead and start that now, just in case anyone is chatting in there. Okay, so that should be showing now. Still getting the hang of this Restream thing, but I think it's working how I'm expected to now. So I'm very excited about this, trying to reach two different audiences and have them communicate with each other, bringing the world together one stream at a time. Okay, let's get on with it. So in Nickel, in Couchbase 5.5, I want to show you first, and I'll just maybe do some copy and paste, save some time here. But here is an example of a join that you could do in, this is something you could do in Couchbase 4. You would do a join, and this would be this syntax here, which is the only weird part here. If you're used to SQL, this is the only weird part, is that you can only join on document keys. So airline ID contains a value that refers to another document based on the key. So if I execute this, you can see the result in JSON there, and I'll put it in table view so it's easier to see on the screen here. You can see that airline ID, airline 24, that corresponds to a document with that key, airline 24, and the document is where I get the airline name, right? This is great. This is a great join that you can do, lots of different possibilities. The only thing is you can only join on document key. That's the first thing. And the second thing is you got to use this on keys syntax, which is a little non-standard, a little bit out of the ordinary if you're used to writing SQL and relational databases. So what they've added is, and I showed this in an earlier stream, is what we're calling an ANSI join. So notice I've replaced the query here. The only thing that's changed is this part right here. And this is more like a join you're used to seeing, a join predicate that you're used to seeing, is that instead of saying on keys, I'm saying, okay, I can join this field A to this field B, right? And in this case, it happens to be that I'm still referring to the key, but I could join on other things. For instance, I could, if I have a proper indexing, if I can do this here, I can join on a city field to another city field, right? So I'm joining airports to hotels. I want to find out what hotels are in the same city as an airport, or vice versa, right? So I could execute that query, and you can see that it took 300 milliseconds to run, but we're getting I'm living at 10 results here because there's going to be a lot more than that. But you can see, okay, we've got some airports here and a hotel. These are all looks like in France somewhere. So you can see that I can join those together on city, and there's no keys involved here at all. So this is much more flexible type of join. Now, there are some things with indexing that you have to do in order for that join to work, but the possibility is there. And then speaking of joins, another thing that's been added in Couchbase 5.5 is something called a hash join. And this was new to me. Actually, I'm familiar with the relational database world, and hash joins are used a lot in relational databases, but they're not really used explicitly. You don't instruct it to use a hash join. It just sort of is able to figure it out that a hash join is a good idea in this case, or a nested loop, or other types of variants on hash join nested loop. And so the default join in Couchbase is a nested loop, which is sort of the most simple thing you can think of. Exactly what it sounds like. It's a loop with a loop inside, and that performs the join. There's another approach that's generally, sometimes more efficient. So let me just paste this one here. So this is a join on email field to another email field. All right, so much like the ANSI join you saw earlier. But if I execute this join, it's going to take a very, very long time to run. It's probably going to time out, but I'm just executing this to show you that this is using the nested loop join, which could be very, very slow in some situations, right? So what we can do instead, I'll go ahead and cancel this, is we can do something called a hash join. And so in a relational database, it would probably have some sort of costing mechanism to say, okay, nested loop is going to be too slow, let's try a hash join. Right now in Couchbase, we don't have that sort of cost-based optimizer yet. But what you can do is you can say, okay, I want to use a hash join in this case. And so what you have to do there, you can see the difference is instead of just saying on, you say use hash, and then the regular predicate on. All right? And the hash build here I'll talk about in a second. But I'll go ahead and execute this, and this is going to run much, much faster. As you can see, 400 milliseconds on my local desktop single node machine. And okay, now we've seen that there are interesting part about this join is I'm joining landmarks to hotels on email. I want to see if there's an email address associated with a landmark that also matches a hotel. Turns out there are two of them, right? Sportsman Inn and the Corner House Hotel, but different landmark names. So I'm able to join them together on an email address. That may be some interesting information if I'm trying to learn more about local landmarks and related hotels. Okay, I want to talk about this build here, because the other option is I could type in probe. And that will also execute and give me the same exact result. So what is going on here? All right, so a hash join typically has two sides, a build side and a probe side. Now the build side of the join is going to actually create an in-memory hash table, and the probe side is going to use that table as a lookup to find matches and perform the join. So this requires less looping, and it's going to be faster to actually do the join. Now, what the problem here is that you actually have to build that hash table to begin with, right? So the build side, you want to be on the smaller of the two sets. But you can only provide one hash hint. So I couldn't say use hash build on this side and use probe on that side, right? For one, it'd be redundant, right? But the syntax only allows you to specify either build or probe on the left side. So here's probe on the left side, here's build on the left side, and then it implies that you want the opposite on the other side. So if I'm building this side, I'm probing the other side, and vice versa. And then, so that's just implicit. So why would I use build or probe? How would I determine that? So one way is you can just sort of run them both. This is sort of the naive way to do it. We can see that a probe takes 535 milliseconds, and a build takes 494. You can run this multiple times and see what the difference is. In this case, it's a pretty small data set. It's not going to be a very noticeable difference. But in general, what you might want to do is look at over here in Bucket Insights, for instance, and to see which side is the join is going to be smaller, generally speaking. So I can see that if I scroll down here, I can see, well, let me pull this up a little bit. Landmark is about 11% of the data that's been sampled, and hotel is about 2.5%. So that means that I probably want to do the build on the hotel side. That's going to be faster, and just based on the results I'm seeing here, that is correct. Now, it's a little more complex than that, right? It's going to be based on other sorts of predicates and things like that. But that's how you do it. So you have to explicitly say use hash build or use hash probe, and it will use that method instead of nested loop. Now you can also specify nested loop explicitly by saying use NL, but that's the default right now. So it's going to assume that you don't have to specify that if you don't want to. And you can see that it's running slow, just like it was when I first showed it to you. Okay, so that's cool. Hash join, something interesting I learned that is now available in Couchbase Server 5.5. I was going to talk about aggregate pushdowns, but I'm running out of time right now in the stream, so leave that for another day. I want to show this slide one more time here. Couchbase Connect coming up May 9 through 10. That's really, really close now. That's about a week away. So get signed up now at the URL at the bottom of the screen. Use the code DEVADVOCACY CC18 for free admission to the main conference. What a great value. You get to check out Keshav's session, learn some more about Nickel, and get really deep into some of the cool Nickel stuff going on in Couchbase Server 5.5. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching.